Hello, welcome to my show, Olio. Before I go any further, I need, as always, to explain what Olio means. It is short for olla podrida, which is Spanish for rotten bowl or rotten pot, whichever. I just get such a kick out of that. It's a Spanish-Portuguese dish with essentially everything in the world in it. Pork in all its iterations. Pig's feet, pig's ears, pork, bacon, sausage, as in, everything. Chicken, chickpeas, cabbage, carrots, onions, garlic, essentially everything in the world in it except Limburger cheese and ginger ale. That's one definition. Another definition is that olio is what comes in between acts of a melodrama. You might have somebody juggling, you might have somebody singing, you might have somebody doing a skit, and none of it has anything to do with the melodrama. So in other words, it's apples, oranges, and a monkey wrench. So welcome to my monkey wrench. Today my guest is a formidable woman. She's active and intelligent and sincere and focused. Her name is Susan Roughgarden, and we are friends, but that's not why I have her here. She is involved with a nationwide / California / Placer County organization, right?
We include Placer County because we're actually statewide.
Okay.
Yes.
The organization is Close the Gap. And if you are going to want to learn more, so there's a website, closethegapca.org. closethegapca.org. So, Susan, what is Close the Gap?
Thank you so much for having me here.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate this opportunity. Close the Gap is a statewide initiative in California, and it's becoming a model for other states, to close the gender gap in our state legislature. Because right now we only have 32%, actually a little less than 32%, of the women in our assembly districts and senate districts as women, and the rest are men. And 50% of the population is women, so we should
at least, yes, sometimes 51, yeah.
Right, we should have at least 50% representation of women.
That reminds me of what the judge who just died, the woman, the Supreme Court judge.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Yes.
who we kept saying, oh well, we should. People ask me how many women? 9 women, and they're aghast. She says people are aghast. Why 9? Well, you've always had 9 women and 9 men on the Supreme Court. Why not 9 women?
Exactly.
Yes, and that's more radical. Quote, radical, than having half that number being women.
That's true. But we can definitely say that we want 50% at least of women, because when women come to the decision-making table, it changes the conversation. Women tend to want to reach out to each other more often, to compromise. They are more concerned about making sure that there is health care and child care and education. And they bring different perspectives, different life experiences to the table.
They change the conversation. That's an interesting comment. That's interesting.
Well, they have different priorities. They will want to be concerned about some of the people who haven't been represented in the legislature.
Like women.
like women, like people of color, like people who are not wealthy. I mean, traditionally, people who have been elected have always been the wealthy ones, and we are changing that bit by bit.
And one of the ways you're changing that is that there are funds involved that go out to help women be part of the political scene?
We have allies who do fundraising for women, but what happens is we don't raise money for elections. What Close the Gap does is target districts in California where there's going to be an opening. Basically because it's almost impossible to go to fight against an incumbent. They have so many things going for them that it's really hard
Familiarity,
to do.
for one thing.
Yeah, and people are just, it's hard to get the inertia going to elect somebody new.
We get used to what we're used to. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what happens is we target the districts that are going to be open, and then we learn as much about those districts as possible. So we do lots of research. We find out who the community leaders are, what the issues are for that particular district. And then we go and recruit women who match that that model. Mm-hmm. And then we talk to them and see if they might be interested in running and if they have what it takes. Uh-huh. And then we train them. We prepare them to launch their campaign.
Wow.
So we don't, and then as soon as they sign their papers and go, we wish them good luck, and they're off. Uh-huh. We don't raise money in that way for particular campaigns.
But the organization Close the Gap, ca.org, trains them.
Yes. Yes. We take them through an exploratory process where we ask them lots of questions, get them to reflect on things. It's a.
For example, what kind of questions?
We'll ask them questions. Well, first of all, we find out what their background is to get to the very beginning. People who are successful in representing their districts have roots in the district. Mm-hmm. So they have lived there a long time, they've raised a family there, or they've got friends there.
They know people, and
they've
people
worked
know
there.
That,
and they know the issues of that particular district. Mm-hmm. And then we find out people who have done community work, who have cared about something in the community, whether it's the environment or waste management or healthcare, education, people who have experience organizing, networking, doing something for positive change. Mm-hmm. And we find people who have perhaps helped other women get elected, or who have been legislative assistants, worked for a assembly person or a Senate manager. And so those are people who have a lot of experience and in-depth. Of course, they have to have some media savvy too. Mm-hmm. They have to be able to speak well in front of a camera. They have to know their stuff. They have to have the information.
And they need to know how to keep going once. What about?
It is. And it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
And you don't get paid very much.
Right.
It's absolutely amazing because we are talking to very competent women with very responsible jobs, and the salary for
these very competent women with very difficult, high-level jobs get paid a lot.
Yes, but to be an assembly member, you get $115,000 a year, plus per diem.
Yeah.
And to be a Senate, you get even less, $111,000.
Wow.
I know it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow. And so that's why it was started to get women more involved in the political world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, we used to have even less representation. Actually, when our Constitution was written, and I used to be a high school teacher, I taught U.S. AP and World AP history. So
women
been
were not
through
invited,
that.
weren't even considered.
Right.
Oh, honey.
Yeah. Well, women were not allowed to vote, of course. And in fact, when the Constitution was first written, only men who owned a property could vote. Gradually, over time, more and more white men could vote. And then finally, the 13th Amendment came along, and the 14th and 15th, the Civil War amendments, and
the 19th. the
Well,
blacks
blacks were
could.
technically supposed to
Yeah.
be able to vote, but even then they couldn't vote
Yeah.
because of the literacy laws and the grandfather clause and all those other good things. And then finally the 19th Amendment, which was just 101 years ago.
Yeah.
101 years
Only
ago.
101. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So women have not been represented.
Okay. And that is the job of Close the Gap, ca.org. Close the Gap in general.
And
Close
if
the
you
Gap.
want to look it up and can't remember the website, you can go Close the Gap California. And it's a nonprofit. It's a 527 nonprofit, so that we don't raise money for political candidates. What we do is we just recruit people.
Okay. Now, I'll just ask, is this an organization for Democrats?
We never use the word Democrat.
Okay.
But what happens is we're trying to close the gap for women to get access to reproductive health. We're trying to close the gap for people to get access to education, because education is funded in different ways in different areas. So, for example, wealthy districts have higher taxes and they can afford really expensive schools and afford to pay their teachers more, whereas that doesn't happen in the poorer districts. So there's so much inequity as far as the way the funding of our education system goes. And then the third criteria is closing the gap in to get a path out of poverty.
Yeah.
So that you can stop some of those barriers to poverty. And that's what a lot of women bring, that kind of perspective and sensitivity to the conversations at the table.
Yes. I would like to go back to reproductive health, and it sounds so much like, well, Planned Parenthood, abortion, but there's more to it than abortion, correct?
Oh, there's so much more. Yeah. Well, doing birth control, doing maternal health care, but just health care for
In general.
For young women
Yes.
who don't have access to health insurance and things like that. So it's really an important thing.
Yes, because the healthier a woman is, the healthier the easier her pregnancy is.
Yes.
And if she chooses to be pregnant, and the healthier her children will be, and the easier the birth will be.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
So I'm going to leap directly to the devil's advocate question that I've thrust on you. If the organization only recruits women, doesn't that mean that the organization is sexist?
That's a great question.
I knew it.
Okay, well, let's go back a minute and realize that California has less than 1/3 of the women in the legislature. In fact, we are 21st in the country for the proportionate number of women whom we have in our legislature. The United States is tied with Afghanistan for 76th place in the number of women.
Wait. Start over again.
Yes.
Let me repeat what you said. The United States is tied with Afghanistan.
Yes, for 76th place in the world for proportional representation of women.
Wow.
I know. We have never had a woman president.
Right.
We have never had, well, right now we only have 3 senators, U.S. senators of color in the United States, and none of them are black. And what Close the Gap has decided to do is, if we continue at the current rate that we've been bringing women into the California legislature, it will take 208 years to get there. And that's a fact from Melinda Gates' foundation. And so we have to do something to change the pace. And so we have a great opportunity, in California because in 2012, term limits were introduced to the legislators, which means that if somebody serves in the state legislature, you can serve a total of 12 years. So that is a combination of being in the assembly or being in the Senate. So what happens after that? You are termed out.
Mm-hmm. Then what?
Then there's an opening.
Yeah.
And so it's not the incumbent. Otherwise, the incumbent would be there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason it would take so long to do this.
Yeah.
And so there are only 15 states that have term limits, and we're just taking advantage of it.
Okay.
So 2012 was the year that term limits were implemented, and 2013 was the year that Close the Gap began.
Okay.
Because our founders recognized that this was a golden opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to try and make sure that we get enough women there. And it's a numbers game. If you just bring the women, they will run.
If you bring them,
great.
they will run.
Yeah. And the thing is that a lot of women have been sort of culturated. You know what it was like when we were growing up.
Yes.
That,
Shh.
Yeah.
Shh. Yeah.
Seen and not heard.
Be a lady.
Yes.
Quote.
Right. But now we need to just get more women out there. And the thing is that what we want to make sure is that when we recruit someone, they're not going to be a sacrificial lamb. I mean, if it's a district that's very conservative, no. Why should we bother? That district wants a conservative person. But if it's a progressive district and you can get a woman who might be as good or better than a man, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Okay. So what if a person is listening, if a woman is listening to us and she's, oh, well, gee, am I old enough? Am I too old? What if I don't know anything about politics, but I'm interested in learning? Should she just go to closethegapca.org to find out if she's too old or too young, if she needs what is involved? Gosh.
Great question. Great question. Actually, I don't think anyone is too old or too young unless you are too young to vote.
Okay.
You can run. But this is the straight truth in that if you do run for the legislature, you really should have experience at the local level because you learn so much there and it gives you more credibility. So
by local level, you mean city councils?
Yes.
Okay.
School boards.
Okay.
Board of supervisors. Be on a commission. And there are lots of opportunities out there. If you have even the faintest idea that maybe you might be interested in public service, you want to go and find out what opportunities are open because the city councils and the board of supervisors can appoint people to positions. You don't even have to run, and then you could sort of get your feet wet, see what it's like. Also, if people have experience volunteering or if they are passionate about something that matters to your community, that's really good. And you brought up another issue, like what if I'm not savvy enough about politics? What if I'm not perfect?
If I'm wanting something, but I don't, but I'm not perfect.
Yeah. So just get your feet wet, get some experience, and we have found that people who are married, never married, have kids, no kids, all different kinds of family are very, very successful. And everyone brings their special sauce.
Everyone brings their special sauce.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, their personality, the things they care about, what's in their heart. So, and no district is the same as any other district.
Right.
So there are some wildly progressive Democrats. There are some moderate Democrats. There are some people who have registered in the past as Republican And they're sort of, but they're saying, but these are the issues I care about. I don't care about the party label. That's what you want to do. You want to appeal to your district because you're representing your district, not some
Not a
standard,
party.
not some particular party.
Okay. Susan, how did you get involved with say, Close the Gap?
I've been a teacher, as I said, and loved working with the students, and I'm sort of a political nerd all my life.
A political nerd. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was an intern on Capitol Hill, and I saw how some of the Congress people work together, and then when I was in college I did the same thing. I was a journalism intern the summer that Watergate broke. I went to the Watergate hearings.
Whoa.
And I was there when some of them were giving testimony and things like that, and I was just hooked. It was just amazing. So when I retired, I still felt like I had all this energy and I wanted to do something for my community, so I volunteered
And your community
for this.
is not just Auburn. Your community is the county, the state, the country.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now, do you think you're going to run for office?
I don't think I would run, but I think that I want to help other people, and I love meeting these people. These people are so interesting. They are fascinating. They have all this passion and experience, but I can guide them because I'm older. I've been a teacher, and I can give them feedback. I can hold the mirror up to them and help them with that.
Wow. Okay. Do you have what is your role? Do you have a job in particular in this voluntary?
Well, they call me a recruiter for
Okay.
Northern California. So there are a number of recruiters, and almost everybody is volunteer, although in order to get a more egalitarian, diverse group of recruiters, we do offer stipends to people who would have something valuable to bring to the table on this, but who otherwise could be making money somehow. So what we do is we research the district. We have this target book which tells you all the demographics and read about the issues that are important for that particular district, and then we interview people from that district, maybe people who are in a local office, leaders of nonprofits, like a union leader, medical leaders, things like that. We get a feel for the group, and after a while certain names come up over and over again, and then we contact them. And of course during Zoom it was easy because I could just talk to them on the telephone.
Hi.
Yeah. Normally it would be done in person. And then I would have something called a search party where I could get, and I took lots of notes, but then you would get maybe 12 to 14 people on a Zoom call and sort of get their collective ideas, and some of the same names are coming up again. And then you talk to those people, and some of them nominate themselves and say, yeah, I want to run. And other people wait to be asked because they're just so
what you're saying
passionate
is,
about the job.
Don't be wait to ask. To be
Yes,
asked.
yes, yes. So then once we identify some people who can run, we take them through this exploratory process, which is fairly comprehensive, and we really get into a lot of details about their idea about fundraising, their ideas about how they can talk to the media, what their weaknesses and strengths are. And then we can direct them to people who are experts in the field. Like if you need to know education funding, or if you need to know more about
Health.
health, or if you need to know about banking industry or something like that, we can get them to the right people to talk to them.
Okay.
And then, and sometimes we work with a couple of women from the same district, but we have a silo so that we don't disrupt the running. And sometimes these women will look at each other and they'll sort of feel each other out, and they'll sort of see which
You're
one
better
should
than
run.
I am.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll compete.
Uh-huh.
And whatever happens. We're just trying to bring more women, a tidal wave of women to the table.
Do you see that happening?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Good. Good.
Yes. Now, so far, we have 9 women in the legislature who are our recruits. And 8 of those 9 are women of color.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, yes.
And so but we're in the course of looking for a good woman. I find lots of women who should be at the running for the local level. So we have allies, we have other groups that we work with, and then we will refer them to different groups and different training.
Now, can you share which groups these are?
There is certainly there's of course Emily's List and a couple of things like that. There's a group called Emerge, which does really good training of women, and they have a training program every year from January to June, and there's one in Southern California, Central and Northern California, and they do a great job. And so when I'm looking for people and I see someone, I think, wow, she's fabulous, but she's not quite ready to run for the legislature, then I say, why don't you go to Emerge training, sign up for their training. It's an application process. Not everyone gets accepted. And you learn so much. Not only do you get to network with all these interesting women, but you get to practice public speaking and the research and understanding the issues and understanding how the basic politics works.
Now, the impression I'm getting is that you've been to the Emerge. Have you taken the Emerge?
I have not actually, but I have learned a lot about it.
Yes.
It's been, everything's been virtual.
Uh-huh.
So, but it's a good program.
Okay.
Yeah, and we work with them, they work with us. So we realize that what we need to do is build a tidal wave of women to speak up, think about running, and we need to build a strong infrastructure to recruit and train them. And then some of the groups are specializing in funding.
Okay. Okay. And you have, how long have you been involved with Close the Gap?
Just 2 years.
Just 2 years?
Yeah, because I
Okay.
retired and decided that I wanted to do something and keep active, and this has been fun.
Yes, yes. What is, in your, do you have a specific position in Close the Gap?
I'm a recruiter for Northern California,
Okay.
but there are a couple of other recruiters too.
Good.
Yeah, and we need more. We need, because the coming years are what we call the mother lode of opportunities, because in 2024 we're going to have the largest number of open seats that we've ever had. And then
So
2024 is big. 2026 is big, and 2028 is big, and 2028 is our goal.
okay.
That's the goal when we are going to achieve gender equity.
Okay. We could go on and on, couldn't we? Wow, this is astonishing. This is wonderful. My guest has been Susan Muffgarden. We have been chatting enthusiastically about closethegapca.org, getting women to run for office. Susan, thank you very much for joining me. This has been just a kick.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and I really appreciate what you do.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for watching.